Radical Jack here. Don't know if you can hear that in the background. It's The Doors, Riders on the Storm. It's my favorite track of all time, and yeah, what can I say? It's been a stormy life, and yeah, ups and downs, ins and outs, yeah, all around. I thought it was full moon last night, but in fact it's today at 13:36, and that's good because I was having a bit of a meltdown last night. Lots of interesting things coming up for me, and yeah, part of me wanted to go outside, light a fire, and be in the full moon, and weather wasn't all that anyway, and yeah, I was even not wanting to go outside, you know. I was definitely going through a shift, you know. I'd watched John St. Julian's take on Easter, or Esther, or Ishtar, as it was once pronounced, in relation to where it comes from, and yeah, really digging this dude and his interpretations of things, you know. Highly recommend him, you know. But that one on Easter is pretty good. And you know, there's a little bit of chit chat about him doing something on the resurrection as well, and the true meaning of Easter. And I love his interpretations of the biblical the scripture, you know, which isn't necessarily the Bible. You know, he's gone into Gnostics and Upanishads and the Gospel of the Essenes and Gospels that aren't really or weren't taken in. In the Bible, and therefore haven't been changed or misinterpreted and so on. So this is really good. I really dig this guy, you know, and very much yeah, was going through something, you know, over the last few days, and I just had a major shift, you know, in the last hour, if you like, you know. But yeah, it's ongoing, and my main thing was yeah, getting back into the child, you know, the source of my triggers, you know. Where does these things come from, you know? You know, because if we're just constantly dealing with the symptoms and not the core root cause of the problem, you know, like in modern medicine, you know, they're always giving us drugs and medicine for the you know, the symptom, you know. And I wonder about cannabis too, as well, you know, in relation to pot smoking, you know, continuous smoking, you know. Is that helping you, you know, if you're, you know, are you constantly sick that you're, you know, because I hear people calling it medicine, you know. So therefore, you know, continue to take medicine when you're not sick, or, you know, does it work when you're continuing to take it all the time, and so on, you know. So in the same way with food, it's pretty obvious, right, that eating food out of season can have a problem, or just generally overeating, you know. Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food. Apothecaries, or whatever his name was. But this is really interesting because if food is medicine and we overeat, then it's going to cause us harm. It's a problem, you know. So this is something we got to watch. You know, overdoing, overeating, overworking, you know. Any of this kind of thing, you know, is relevant, you know, to you know, the scales, you know, out of balance, you know, or completely in balance, you know. And then, you know, that ought to be the dream as well in relation to our ultimate goal on the planet, you know, because there's good things on both sides of the fence, you know, and you know, we can't knock people. You know, there's amazing people who are still eating meat out there who do wonderful things for life, you know, and so on. And you know, how can you judge them just because they're a meat eater, you know? But it's not to say that it's right or wrong or anything like that, you know, in relation to where we're heading. Maybe we are elevating and evolving towards something where, you know, it's a beautiful gift the animal has given to us in the form of food and clothing and all the things that they do, you know, and we ought to be really grateful for that experience that they've given their spirit and their life to feed us, you know. But as we've evolved, maybe we are heading in a direction that is where it's unnecessary to do that, and how long are we away from that, making that change in that evolutionary step, because we have knowledge, we have understanding, there's new things coming to the forefront, and the precipice of change. So it's really interesting, this, so I got to looking at myself, I've got my little girl for a week now. I'm really excited, and I just I believe it's obvious, they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and in the same way, like, we would need less hospitals, less doctors, less less of everything, pharmaceutical, drugs, chemists, and the unnecessary movement of these things, which burn up energy and oil, wasted energy, we had real education around this in the first place, and that starts with our children. And so, of course, then, we have the problem then of, people being so busy that there's no such thing as homeschooling anywhere anymore, and and a lot of people are against it because of the schooling system and the way that it is today. That they believe it's nothing better than an indoctrination center, which is preparing people for the system, which is not really working, So rightfully so, that's not to say that all teachers are bad, or that all schools are bad, or all school systems are bad in the different parts of the world. So again, we're looking for balance within these things, And certainly, I think that it's really important, that we're filling in the gaps. If the school isn't, up to scratch or up to standard, and of course, when we don't spend time with our children, what are they otherwise doing? If you're not giving them attention and so on, and interacting with them, they're doing other things which you're often wondering where did it all go wrong, whilst and it's not to say that they're not going to become outstanding members of the universe, and do some great things, because they've been playing computers or in that whole world of gaming or whatever it is they preoccupy themselves with. But again, there's got to be a balance between that and nature, and spending time in nature, because there are obvious side effects to lack of exercise, lack of fresh air, lack of any of these things that involves being outdoors, So, to divide our time between these two things, I think, is where it's at. And each individual has to make that move, And each of us can inspire each other, inspire our children by leading by example in this area. So, so I think it's really important, because otherwise, we are the elders. If we're not living that truth, 1 second, I'm just going to turn this music down. That was getting a bit too loud, yeah. So yeah, basically, where was I? Children, we can save ourselves a lot of hassle down the road, where, again, like I spoke about before in relation to, people who are ill because of the lifestyle and so on, and the strain on the hospital system, and, the strain on everything, basically, where we become less reliant and non-self-reliant, whatever the case may be. So, it's a difficult task for, for all of us. We're all in this together. We're all in the same boat here, So, there's no separation, and we've got to stop pointing the finger, at this and that, And we need to. There's good people on both sides of the fence. So we need those anthropologists and billionaires and elite. The good people. There's good people out there. Try and remember that. There's bad people on both sides of the fence in every area, in every walk of life as well. In relation to whatever you're talking about, whether they have money or not. It's like, we're always tuning into the people who are doing wrong, and really what we need to tune into is the people who are are, leading the way, and constantly, look for that, and inspire that, in our own lives, because often the projections that we put out there, they're not helping the situation. So we're either part of the solution or part of the problem, And there are some good things, on every side of the fence. So I think this is the time for change, and this is what I'm going through in myself. Last night I had a bit of a death, not a great night's sleep. A death in myself, but it was all inspired by two photographs a friend had put on my Facebook. Where I was, I was captain in the football team at under 12, and then under 13 as well, consecutively, and then under 14 I wasn't a captain because I was already running around smoking and drinking, and I was 14. I was being thrown out of school, and it was difficult for the poor old Patsy, chasing me around. But I turned up for the games, but not for training, and so I didn't deserve the captaincy, But you could see in my face, I was the only person in the photograph, even though we won the county finals, that wasn't smiling, and I was already turning inside out, where I was becoming, super self-conscious and paranoid and schizophrenic, and but at the same time doing some mad shit. I was known as Mad Braz, Mad Brennan, and it was extreme. But I went on to be, like from 12, 13, 14, 15. Thrown out of school, 15, in Galway in college, and got thrown out of that after 6 months, and 16 London, 17 prison, and it was like one after the other, from 12 to 24. I mean, I was gone, and then at 24 I had dropped an ecstasy tablet for the first time, and thankfully came back into my body and started to feel fearless again, and somehow or other that was medicine for me, and it helped me. It was the beginning of my awakening, So, again, 12, 12, 24, 2 4s are 8, and then 12, 12, 24, 2 4s are 8, 88. So the synchronicity of 88 for me is like, because, 4 12s is 48, I'm 48. So 2 24s is 48, in relation to 4 12s. It's all there. This is the time for me to rock it in myself. And I'm looking for all these things. Everybody can find something, to inspire themselves, in relation to motivation and getting yourself into that place where you're taking that first step, So and it was interesting because within those photographs, like this morning, I'm lying there and I'm after listening to Saint John Julian, on the Easter thing, it was like, Christ died on the cross, so to speak. What does that mean? He had a different interpretation of that, in relation to, but I was kind of writing that in some way without realizing it, that I was, and it was like that kind of death of, that I woke up this morning, forgiving that child for whatever pain and suffering and harm that I brought to people because of my, my mother, whatever, the way I put, the way I behaved throughout all that time for those 12 years, and all the things I robbed and ended up in prison, and all the things that I did, and I was like, how did it happen? I remember getting my jabs, I remember there were certain things. I was becoming a little bit messed up on sugar, and was it the difference between acid and alkaline? Was that the thing, or was it just part and parcel of what I needed to learn, and my experiences in life, did the jabs play a part in it, did all these things collectively, and was it all meant to be? Are these things written, or is there a bigger picture to this, And so I'm looking at that, but I was forgiving that little child, for what I'd done, and what I hadn't done, and trying to grow out of this thing, like, which has become a trigger, which then is this habit, then that needs to be broken. And so, I'm moving on from this now, and it's important to see these triggers. We need to get to the root cause, and root that out. Get that root out, so it's not continually growing and prospering in your life. So Resurrection Day tomorrow. We're gonna have a full moon fire, and peace and love, people. I'm really excited about life and love, and the best is yet to come. I'm telling you. Happy days.